Hey everybody, this is Double RPG here, and I'm here to present to you my full thoughts on Season 1 of the Ninja Turtles cartoon. And this is going to be more of an impromptu type of video, where I am delivering you my thoughts on screen, instead of doing massive amounts of editing with still images, which is the only way you're going to be able to see any of the footage from Season 1, or any of the episode reviews that I do, because the first time I tried to do that on YouTube, I did have some footage, live action not live action footage, but just real-time footage of the show playing in the background. But my video ended up getting pulled down by Viacom for copyright, so I have to I had to end up resorting using still images instead. But also, I just want to let you know this is probably the second take I'm doing of this review, because the first time I did it with my new iPhone 5C, and when I started recording footage, I didn't even realize that the footage it was capturing the stuff in on the iPhone was actually in the MOV file. That's basically a QuickTime movie file, and since QuickTime is owned by Apple, Adobe Premiere doesn't seem to be on good terms with using any of Apple's products or any of the technicalities side of things with movie-based files like that. So yeah, I have to ending up using my my camera here, because it does record an MP4, so that way I can actually use that for my editing software. But anyway, so Season 1. Season 1, in my opinion, it was actually a pretty good ride. The first season was obviously introducing most of the characters and most of the overarching storylines that the show has going, that the show's going to lay out more for however long this goes. But, we're already at the end of Season 1, and we just started Season 2, but for Season 1, it's a really interesting take on how they portrayed the origins of many of the characters, like for Splinter, even though it's technically about the same, but with some minor alterations about how he was portrayed. I mean, I guess Nickelodeon was kind of going for a different approach, like how Kevin Eastman and Tom Waltz did for the IDW comic, which is still ongoing right now. But still, for the Nickelodeon show, it's still very original. It kind of does take a page back from some of the 1987 show with the origins of Splinter, but pretty much the origin is still the same with how the Turtles became how they are. And even how they introduced April in the show, that I thought that was actually pretty interesting, because they don't actually bring her back to the sewer lair, she ends up getting captured by the Krang in the first episode, and the Turtles end up meeting her on the surface from there. So yeah, that was actually a nice take. I mean, the IDW comic also had a very interesting take, but it was still in the sewers, but they didn't bring her back unconscious or anything. But and also, some of the other characters that they portrayed in the show, like Cry, for instance, I thought her, along with April, being portrayed as teenagers was actually a very nice twist. And I know that Nickelodeon said that they were actually trying to portray the characters in the show as if they were more along the lines of, they were trying to portray the show with more of the term teenager, since, the Ninja Turtles are teenagers. But in the other incarnations of the characters like April and Casey, Karai, they were mostly adults. So they actually took that incentive to actually make those characters be emphasized with the term teenager more, as much as the Ninja Turtles, which I actually think is also another really good take. And the first episode, in my opinion, it was actually a really good start. I would say that it had to be probably one of the more creative ways on how they reimagined the Ninja Turtles for this time around. Just the fact that the Turtles learn what the surface is like for the first time, as well as learning about what pizza is for the first time when they're up on the surface, and them having it for the first time, it's like, oh man, this is actually pretty cool, pretty funny, and just very, very kudos what you did, Nickelodeon. That was actually pretty good. And also, and as I said, some of the characters that they mentioned, and some of the enemies like Dog Pound, Fish Face, even Snakeweed, Spider Bites, and how they bring in some newer ones too, or bring back older characters, more obscure, but to have more prominent roles, like Mutagen Man, who you actually find out is the Pulverizer from episode 16 and 22, from what you saw in order of the episodes that I showcased. Which and also speaking of Pulverizer, some people thought he might have actually been Casey Jones, but for me, I just didn't even see that being possible, because the dude is what he did was totally out of character, and it totally is a mockery, or would have been a betrayal of how they portrayed Casey Jones in that show if they went for more of that archetype. But thank God Nickelodeon did not do that, or else I probably would have ranted about that whenever they show off Casey Jones at some point. But yeah, and using someone like Mutagen Man, who hasn't been really used that much in the Ninja Turtle, the 1987 cartoon, I think that was actually a pretty bold choice. I think from what I've seen, Nickelodeon's actually not only bringing back some of the older ones that we like, but they're actually going to put in more emphasis on some of the ones that didn't have that much appearance, like Metalhead, for instance, which is ended up being Donnie's creation, but they actually ended up using him using it, rather, since it doesn't really have a gender, but they end up, using it for other things. Like, they used Metalhead to help the Turtles in trying to destroy Krang Base in both Episode 6 and the TCRI building, well, with the raid, obviously. And also, some of the action in this series is actually pretty good for CG. At first I was kind of skeptical that they weren't going to do that well with CG for the Ninja Turtles in this cartoon, but I think Nickelodeon actually managed to pull it off pretty well. It does, it actually has more of a cartoony vibe than the 2007 movie did, which the 2007 movie, well, it wasn't a bad movie. I actually liked it, but it actually had a more realistic tone to it. But, they went for a more cartoony approach with the whole cartoon that they're currently doing right now, and I think it actually it fits in very nicely. Now getting back to the action, some of the fights that you've seen, like from the fight with Spider Bites, or the fight with Karai, and even the fight against many of the Krang in many of the episodes, as well as some of the other mutants that they portrayed, that they brought in, like Cockroach Terminator, which I think it was actually pretty funny that they introduced a character like that to bring in about many references from other movies into that mix, so I thought that was actually pretty cool. And even Parasitica too, they obviously reference some of the many horror movie cliches that you actually would see from many of the famous horror movies that are around, which I thought it was actually another nice twist, that they kind of, take things, not necessarily verbatim down the line with the main storyline, but with some instances where where you can have filler like that, to where you can actually do something fun that actually would be pretty awesome in the long run. But so far, the action from just from the whole series in general, and some of the ideas for the plot lines for the episodes were just really good. Like, for instance, episode 19, the Turtles have to team up with Fishface and Dog Pound. Pretty cool. And how they portrayed Karai in this series, where she is actually Splinter's daughter and not Shredder's daughter, who we've actually known for quite a while, ever since the 1984 comic, which somebody quoted me that Karai wasn't originally Shredder's daughter. I really don't know how that is, but I'll go along with that, or I just need to research that more. And even how the Shredder was portrayed, even though he's pretty much technically the same like every other incarnation of his character. But I will say, from what I've seen, he definitely reminds me more of the movie Shredder, as well as the comic book Shredder, which I actually like it that they're making Shredder more human in this show, rather than just, how they portrayed him in the 2003 series, where he was mostly an alien and not even a human, like they portrayed him mostly in the first season, but he wasn't really a human overall. But and even the alliance with the Krang, and even the appearance of the Technodrome, which I was really happy about. So there was just so much that's, stuff that it just almost every episode, just had great chemistry with what Nickelodeon was going for. And as I said, I was really afraid that they weren't going to be able to pull it off. But they obviously did. So I give you thumbs up, Nickelodeon. I really do look forward to seeing how you portray more of the episodes in the long run and how the show is going to go. But now for some of the minor inconveniences that may be overlooked, probably some of the episodes that there were actually 2 sets of episodes that were actually in the incorrect order based on the production code of what was displayed like on Wikipedia or some like TV database that you could actually get access online. But you'll notice that episode 13 and 14, if you take a look at the production code, we're actually in the incorrect position. And even for episode 22 and 23. Now, I will say this, 22 and 23, I can see it going either way. But for 13 and 14, I can actually see that direction actually working just fine, because from episode 14 and 15, you see that the story line, or the that part of the story that introduces Karai, actually goes around in full circle, and how Leonardo, kind of displays feelings for the character and was trying to keep her identity a secret because she didn't seem all that bad, but then revealing that truth at the end for his brothers, as well as April and Splinter. So I could see that episode actually working, those two episodes actually working out in order, because it has something that happens before we... it actually has something that happens before episode 15, where the whole plot line just, goes in full circle. But, it doesn't really intervene in between Eye Monster, which was episode 13, which was actually supposed to be 14 in the production code, where Splinter and the Rat, and they introduced the Rat King with who his true identity is from Victor Falco in episode 7. Now for 22 and 23, with Mutagen, Pulverizer Returns and Parasitica, like I said, I can see that going either way, as it didn't really conflict anything too much with the storyline, as it could just go either way, essentially. But yeah, I mean, that's all I pretty much have to say about Season 1. And I really think that the voice acting in the show is pretty good. And I really expect to see who all they introduce for the voices for some of the characters that they're introducing for Season 2. But yeah, Season 1, it was really good in the long run. And I had a really fun time doing the episode reviews, or the episodic reviews. It took a lot of work to do. And a lot of time was really hard for me since... back in June to December, because I was actually working full-time at that period, and doing my time with working on content on my computer had to be put to a halt because of the long, enduring, and hard work that was going on at the job. But yeah, Season 1, definitely a good start. There was a couple episodes that really annoyed me, but for the most part, it was a pretty fun ride. Maybe not as really strong as Breaking Bad standards, which again I mentioned that, but in the end, it was actually pretty good. So, Season 1 definitely, I would say it probably gets either an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 in my opinion. So, yeah, pretty strong. But I'm really looking forward to seeing if they can capitalize on that same strength in the later in Season 2 and beyond. So. Before I close off, what's going to happen in Season 2? Well, we do know that Casey Jones is being introduced, as well as introducing Slash, the mutant snapping turtle, who the Turtles had a problem with in the video games, where he was more of a monkey wrench in the 1987 show for one episode, I think. And we do know that the original cast is set to make an appearance in either a 1-hour special, or they're going to have a cameo in one of the episodes, where the current Turtles will actually meet up with them through this portal. Something that's kind of in lieu to what happened with Turtles Forever, the 2009 movie, where the 1987 Turtles met the 2003 series incarnations of the characters. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how that happens. And also, as a plus, they're actually bringing back the original voice cast for those characters, where they didn't actually bring them back for Turtles Forever. So that's going to be very cool. And and the plot line for season 2 with how they're setting up for the whole outcome, I think it's actually going to be very interesting. I know what it is, but I'll let you know what it is for the episode 27 review, how they're going to lay that out. But yeah, season 2, I'm already hyped to see it all. And season 1, from what was shown in season 1, if that's any indication with how strong this, the series is going to go, then I can't even wait any further to see how that is displayed in the long run. Okay, guys. Well, I think that's going to wrap up my thoughts on season 1. It was kind of a long video, but hey, I'll take it. And besides, I had a lot to say since I am a really big fan of Ninja Turtles. But anyway, be on the lookout for season 2, which should be coming up very shortly. Episode 27 and 28. 29 doesn't air till this Saturday, but I'll be getting to work on that as well. But yeah, keep on the lookout for that, and I will definitely see you for episode 27 very soon. Oh, and by the way, before I go, here's a look at the intro for season 2 for my review series. Anyway, guys, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you for season 2. Peace.